Told you guys I would try and take you to some more unique locations around Las Vegas. Not sure it gets too much more unique or Las Vegas, Nevada than an old abandoned mine that a graffiti artist has turned into the Wheel of Misfortune. This was done by an artist who goes by the name Aware. I'll put a link in the description box to a video of him making it. Kind of random, but pretty cool, I think. This mine is called 3 Kids Mine, and there's some chance I'm standing on like toxic land or something, but you do it for the vlog, you know? Dedication. You also drive 30 minutes out into the middle of nowhere to capture the Wheel of Misfortune. All right, so first things first, my apologies for the slow pace that these videos have been coming out and getting uploaded. I haven't been able to play a ton of poker lately, been just super busy, but I did manage to play poker last night. And we can run through some hands. We got a lot of premium hands, so we can take a look at some of these premium hands we got dealt. First one, pocket aces number 1. Playing 5-10 at the Bellagio, 5-handed. New game just started, must move game. 2 aces in the hijack, I make it 30 to go, only the small blind calls. Flop is queen jack 4 with 2 diamonds. He checks, I bet 50, he makes the call. Turn is the 9 of spades, which puts a second flush draw on board. Board's pretty connected and wet now. And when he checks it over to me, I don't want to just give a free card, and I don't want to bet a size that allows him to just draw profitably. So I bet $220, which is I think a small overbet, and I've been trying to include and incorporate these sizings a little bit more. I think it was something that was a little bit lacking in my game. So 220 it is, and he makes the call again. River comes an offsuit 8, and he checks it over to me, and now I'm pretty done with the hand considering that there's 4 to a straight. With 1 pair I check it back, and we get shown ace 10 offsuit. So I do like my size there on the turn. Charged him a pretty good amount. Maybe I could have even charged him more, since if he called with a gutter on the flop, he was probably calling a pretty decent amount with an open ender on the turn. So I think I like my sizing, but maybe could have even charged a little bit more there. This next hand, playing 8-handed this time, and once again, pocket aces, this time from under the gun +2, $30 to go. The player on my direct left calls, and I think the small blind calls as well. So 3 ways to a flop, 8-7-3 with a flush draw. I bet $70, player on my left calls, other player folds. Turn card is an offsuit 4. Pretty good card for his range, I guess. Shouldn't improve me too often. So I guess you could make a case for betting there, but I decided to check it for a little bit of pot control, and he checks back. And the river is another offsuit 4. So that seems like a pretty great run out considering that he checked the turn. I would hate to have to bet the turn and get raised and then face another bet on the river. Could be a little weak, but that's my reasoning for checking on the turn there. So now when this river comes, offsuit 4 again, pretty sure I have the best hand here. And I'm gonna try and make up for some missed value on the turn. I think it's another decent spot for somewhat of an overbet here. So I go ahead and bet $260, try and get that value from the turn going check, check. Doesn't think for too long before making the call. So roll it over, and we're winning this one after he mucks. We can check out one more premium hand, and I thought this one was possibly the most interesting. I mean, I guess there's some interesting bet sizing stuff going on in those other 2 hands, but somewhat of a decision here in this next hand. So in this one, I think we're at a full table now, and I looked down at pocket kings in the cutoff. $30 open, the small blind 3 bets, makes it 125 to go, and the big blind puts in a 4 bet to 350. We're about 1,800 effective in this spot. Gonna put this one to you guys. What do you guys do here? 1,800 effective, open from the cutoff, 3 bet from the small blind and a 4 bet from the big blind. The small blind, I don't know who he is. I've never seen him before. He looks like he's winning though because he has a bunch of chips. And the big blind, I do know, I've played a lot with him. He is a regular, pretty solid regular. So what do you guys do here? Fold, flat call, put in the min-raise click back, or just jam it all in there. Let me know what you guys do. Let me know what you guys think. And I promise this time I will put what happened, what I did at the end of this video. And I realized that I forgot to put the results of the last time I did one of these polls. So if you wanna go back and watch that hand. With that in mind, I decided to bet 175,000. The button snap raises to like 650,000. I will tell you now that I folded that hand, that ace queen hand, and got shown a bluff, pocket sevens. All right, let's go. Time to head back to civilization. We're down here at Lake Mead area right now, which is like, we're gonna go back to civilization, go back to the strip, probably the Bellagio, probably play some poker. Let's go. One more thing, I forgot I wanted to tell you what I've been up to this week. First thing I did was pay some taxes or get my tax information ready. Not that interesting. Second thing was answer emails, also not interesting. Third thing was I did an AMA on Reddit, the poker subreddit. I'm very noobish when it comes to Reddit. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link to that below as well. Fourth thing of note that I did this week, there is a class or student-sponsored or sponsored student forum, Wesleyan University in Connecticut. I got an invite to do sort of like a, I don't know, maybe another AMA, but this time over Skype. So had a really cool chat with them. Shout out to Sam and all his fellow students. Yeah, these guys are studying GTO poker and how that applies to your strategic approach to no limit hold'em. Luckily, they didn't ask me too many questions about that, and it was a little bit more open format in general, but that was really cool. So cheers, guys. Thanks for having me. All right, Bellagio, let's go. First up on the list here for the 510 at Bellagio, but I really wanted to mention last night when I finished that session last night, finished around 11 maybe? Believe it or not, I'm on a good sleep schedule at the moment. Been waking up at like 7 in the morning, bed by midnight. Sweet, pretty sweet. Also, while we're just chilling here and have some time, I thought it'd be, I thought of another hand that we could take a look at, go over real quick. So in this hand, there's a straddle on. I'm in another position and I look down at pocket aces. Pocket aces again. Had pocket aces 3 times and pocket kings once. That happened. But anyway, pocket aces again, 60 to go this time. 3 callers. So 4 ways to a flop of queen 4-3 with 2 spades. I do have the ace of spades in my hand. So there's 1 check over to me and I put out a bet somewhere around half pot, maybe a little more. The player on my left makes the call and the player on the button, either in the cutoff or on the button, he puts in a raise. He makes it 540 to go. When it folds back to me, I think this is a pretty tough spot. He's representing some strength here, and when I happen to have the ace of spades here, it eliminates a bunch of the flush draws that he could potentially have. So obviously all of the ace high flush draws, but it also eliminates some of the flush draw plus wheel draw combinations, such as ace deuce of spades, ace 5 of spades. Those are both out the window. Also, since I have 2 aces, it eliminates him possibly overvaluing ace queen in this spot. So it seems like he would have to be really overvaluing king queen, or he would have to have a hand like 5-6, maybe 5-6 of spades. 5-6 of spades, that doesn't do too poorly against pocket aces here in this spot. I think that's basically a coin flip, pretty close to it anyway. He doesn't seem like the type of opponent to me who would overvalue king queen or even ace queen for that matter. The 1 pair hand versus that range and blocking a lot of flush draw possibilities, I decided to fold. It seems like it's almost better to have pocket kings here than it is to have pocket aces with the ace of spades. If I had pocket kings, then I wouldn't be blocking any of those nut flush draw or wheel draw plus flush draw combinations. So I almost prefer to have pocket kings here instead of pocket aces. So I decided to make a fold again, maybe on the weak side a little bit. Yeah, I folded, I let it go. Believe it or not, I made the fold, and the player on my left called. The turn was an offsuit jack. Player on my left checked, and the player on the button jammed all in. Player on my left thought for a while, then folded. So no results. We don't get to see what happened there, but It's never fun folding pocket aces, and it's pretty easy to kind of wonder and ponder whether that was a good one or not. Just taking a quick breakout here on the old terrace, Bellagio terrace, overlooking the pool. I'm gonna try and make this quick. Go over a couple hands real quick because it's kind of rainy, drizzly out here. Been kind of card dead so far, and not a ton of action to be found, especially when you're card dead. So let's hop in here and take a quick look. And the first interesting hand under the gun was 6-7 of diamonds. Make it 30 to go. There's 2 callers, so 3 ways to a flop of king 4-3, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. Flop ourselves a gut shot, and should be a pretty good flop for us to fire at, since there's going to be some good runouts we can barrel with, and we can represent the king. So big blind checks. I bet $40. Button folds and the big blind calls. Turn is the 4 diamonds, which gives us straight flush draw. Checks it over to me, and I think it's another one of those spots where I want to bet a little bit sizable. If I happen to have a king here, then I wouldn't really love this card so much, since block top pair. I might want to check back, since he might be calling with second pair here. He could still be calling with second pair here anyway, so kind of a good news, bad news card. But since we pick up all this equity with a diamond draw, I'm gonna bet, and I bet $160. My opponent thinks for a little bit, and then he folds. So that's good news. Take that one down with 7 high. In this next hand, the cutoff open limps into the pot. I have 10-7 offsuit in the small blind. I go ahead and complete it. Big blind checks. So 3 ways to a flop of 8-6-4 with a flush draw. Since we have a double gutter here, kind of like a lead out, seems like small blind can have any number of holdings that would have connected here with this flop. So I bet $20, big blind fold, and the limper calls. Turn comes a jack of spades, which completes the front door flush. We do have a spade, so I think it's okay to keep barreling here, blocks flushes. So I bet $40 this time. My opponent calls again. River's an offsuit ace. Since we block all the straights, we block some flushes, and we have 10 high in this spot. Not a very good hand. It's just a debate between checking and giving up, or firing that third barrel. I don't think I want to take 10 high to showdown here. Block flushes. We might block some straight draws with our holdings, having a 10, but it seems like we block a lot of good hands, and it seems like we might have heard from him earlier with a raise if he had that good of a hand. So I don't want to give up here. I go ahead and I bet it. This time I bet $140. My opponent snap calls. So we're not going to win this one, and he rolls over ace queen of clubs. So yeah, I think what happened here was I bluffed the wrong person, because as it turns out, this player, which I didn't realize at the time, had a rack sitting on the table of $100,000. He had a stack of flags, a stack of 5K chips in the rack, just sitting there with $100,000, which I saw the rack, but I didn't realize it was his, because it was actually closer to the person next to him than it was to him. So it seems like this gentleman did not come here to fold for $140 or $20 or $40. Had I known what was going on, I might have taken a different strategy, but you live and you learn. So anyway, getting back in there, I'm pretty much even at this point. Let's go find some hands, maybe find a profitable bluff here and there, and try and win some money. Actually, I couldn't resist. Had to stop for a gelato on the way back. $6 for a small, one scoop of ice cream. Welcome to the Bellagio. It's a very thin line between brilliant and moronic in poker, isn't it? I probably don't need to tell you these things, but both instances can happen in a very short time span in the same game. Case in point, Lots of straddling going on in my game. We ended up getting a pretty fantastic amount of action happening. Straddle was on in this hand, folds all the way around to me in the big blind, and I look down at Jack 9 offsuit. I just complete, and the straddler checks pretty quickly. So we see a heads up flop of ace 10 8 with a flush draw. I go ahead and bet my open-ended straight draw for about half pot. The straddler puts in a raise and he makes it $80 to go, I think. Pretty interesting spot here because he's repping a pretty narrow range. He can't have any of the sets because he would have raised all of those pocket pairs pre-flop. Probably doesn't have ace 10 either. So he could have ace 8, he could have 8 10, and then the rest of the time he's just gonna have draws, flush draws, straight draws. Anyway, I make the call here and we see a turn card of an offsuit 9. So I make a pair to go along with my open ender. I check it over to him and he bets 130. So again, pretty interesting spot here because A, that's a little bit on the small side, and B, having a jack in our hand means we block a lot of the straights. My thoughts in this spot are also that I don't have any clubs in my hand, so I don't block flush draws. Again, I don't think he could ever be that strong on the flop, aside from maybe bottom 2 or top and bottom. I also have that jack as mentioned, so I could pretty easily have queen jack here. I could have flopped a double gutter and then gotten there on this turn card. There's the slight issue of us also being somewhat capped, perhaps. I guess it depends how wide my limping range is in this situation when I'm in the big blind and there's a straddle on. Would I limp pocket 8s or pocket 10s or pocket aces? I wouldn't personally, but I'm sure a lot of people might. They might limp the majority of their range. Some people would anyway. I wouldn't. So that's a negative against us to trying to do something fancy here. That being said, I kind of like a raise in this spot because, all right, I just got back home. It's raining here in Las Vegas, and I didn't really think it was a good idea to talk into the camera and drive in the rain. So, where was I? Yeah, we're here on the turn, and I feel like if I put in a raise, I can put a lot of pressure on his good hands that he flopped, as well as the times when he has a flush draw. And since we don't have any clubs, we don't block any flush draws, we do have a jack, so we block straights. We could pretty easily represent queen jack here, and we could potentially have some other hands that we limped in, and we're looking for the either the limp re-raise or something of the sort. So anyway, I decided to put some pressure on, take the high variance route, and I check raise to $400. My opponent thinks for a little while, and he makes the call. Interesting situation developing here. So off to a river card, which total brick, offsuit 5. I have about $1,100 now in my stack. Same situation as on the turn. Don't block flush draws, do block straights, can represent a straight or possibly some other hands, maybe. Not exactly sure if I can represent some other hands or not. It's debatable, but I feel like a jam is in order. So that's what I do. I stick it in there, $1,100, and my opponent does not snap call, thankfully, goes into the tank and is thinking for a long time. Gives it the sorry guys, sorry I'm thinking for so long, dragging it out, really in the tank on this one. And eventually he shows me 8-5 of clubs, and then he folds. So interesting development there, where we actually had the best hand on the turn. Turns out we were raising for value and to try and deny some equity slash charge some drawing hands there, which we do, and then we end up having the worst hand on the river, but getting the better hand to fold with maximum pressure. So that worked out well. He did have 2 pair, but it's not the 2 pair that I was expecting he could have. So I don't know. Thoughts always welcome. All right, one more interesting hand here before I go to bed. Early middle position raise to 30. No straddle this hand. I look down at Jack 9 of diamonds. I go ahead and call in position. I think all options are on the table there, but since the raise came from early position, I don't really like a 3-bet too much. So I go ahead and call, and all the other players fold. Heads up to a flop which comes pretty ragged, pretty low, and he checks it over to me. So again, some decent barreling opportunities here, and I think a flop that sort of favors me more than the pre-flop raiser. So I go ahead and put out a bet. I take a stab at it, and I bet $40, and my opponent calls. Turn is a pretty good card because it gives us both straight and flush draws now. Checks it over to me again, and definitely want to bet here because, like I said, I picked up all that equity, and jack high, probably not good. So I go ahead and bet $200 one of those situations where I'm trying to, you know, put maximum pressure on better hands, have good equity here, so I think it makes sense. And it's a pretty wet board by now, so if I did have a good hand, it makes sense to try and deny equity from a hand that might be drawing. So $200 it is, and once again my opponent check calls. So looking for some help here on the river, and it does not come, but it puts 4 to a straight on board. And the board has run out in such a way that from the get-go, from the beginning on the flop, it seems like it should favor pre-flop caller more than the pre-flop raiser. So when he checks it over to me again, I feel like I should be able to find a lot of folds here. The downside is that with my exact hand, we block lots of hands that we want him to have. We want him to have flush draws and straight draws, and it turns out that we actually had all those flush draws and straight draws. So we don't block any good hands, and we block all the drawing hands. So that's the downside. That upside, what could he have here to be check calling from early position? And I have jack high. So do I really want to take jack high to showdown? I prefer not to. So I go ahead and put out another bet. I bet $390 as if I'm trying to get a call, trying to make a value bet here with that 4 to a straight, the one liner to that straight. So $390 it is, and my opponent snap jams all in. So that's pretty much going to close all the options for us there, and I have no idea what's going on here because we do block the nut straight, and I don't see how he could possibly have that. So I don't know what's happening here, but I do know I have jack high, and I don't think I can call the jack high. So that's gonna be a fold. A bit of a swingy session, some interesting hands that developed over the course of that session. Some non-standard hands for sure there. And at the end of the day, we book a win of $525. Previous session last night, we won 720, I think, 700 something, 720, I think. So not a bad couple days, can't really complain. $1,250 or so. And I said I would mention what I did with that pocket kings hand earlier. When I had pocket kings and the small blind 3-bet and the big blind 4-bet, I just decided on ripping it in there, the $1,800, because I tried to balance it when the times when I have ace king. If I have ace king, I'm definitely gonna jam it in there. If I have ace queen, I might find a jam due to the dynamics that are going on there. So I tried to balance those situations, those instances with this pocket kings. Small blind folded pretty quickly. Big blind went into the tank, asked how much it was, and he folded. So might have missed a little bit of value there. Maybe a click back, min raise to 700 or 750 or something like that might be best. There was a long discussion about it in the hand history lounge. My buddy Benton, shout out to Benton, thinks the click back to 700 was the better option there. It's really cool to have the hand history lounge if you need feedback on your hands. All right, enough shilling for one episode. It's time for bed. Staying on this nice early sleep schedule. I'll be up by 7:30 tomorrow to edit this video, get this up as soon as possible, and then back to it, back to the grind. What happened to this LASIK surgery challenge? Should this money count towards LASIK surgery? Should we start it today, yesterday, or tomorrow? I think LASIK costs about $4,000. So what do you guys think? Should we put this money towards the $4,000 or should we start it next session? Let me know.